She was in heels and sitting next to Tucker and Trace, and I were in tennis shoes. Trace got to see like such a good No, what was amazing was complimenting my dress. Hello, everybody. Hello. Hi, everybody. Happy Monday night before primary. Hi, everybody. My name is Jackie Burns. I'm Mikey's campaign manager. Thank you guys for being here so much. Tomorrow is primary day. I want to acknowledge a couple of folks who are out with us tonight. We have our Essex County Chairman and State Party Chairman, Leroy Jones. From LD 27, where's the Gov? Right, Gov. Oh, right there. From Gov, come on up. From LD 27, we've got LD 27. We've got Governor Cody and Mila JC.
Wait, former Governor Cody, is that you?
Yeah.
From LD 34, we have Senator Gill and Assemblywoman Timberlake. Our county commissioners, we have Brendan Gill, also municipal chair, the Montclair Dems. We have Tashami Cooper. Bloomfield Councilman Richard Rockwell. Bloomfield Councilman Nick Janau. Montclair Councilman Bob Russo.
And Montclair School Board candidate Noah Gale.
Thank you, Noah. From West Caldwell, we've got Lou Venezia. From Belleville, we have our municipal chair, Sal Carnevale, new to NJ11, Belleville. Let's give it up for Belleville. We have Siley Avalenda, our very own, from the New Jersey State Democratic Committee. We've got Todd Conforti from Montclair Police Chief. Thank you, Chief. And we have representation from our grassroots groups. We've got Leslie and Mara from NJ11 for Change. Amy Heiger from Soma Action, another two towns in our districts, South Orange and Maplewood. From Team Wayne, Sal Shafano, where are you? Oh, literally right in front of me. And from the Montclair Dems, we've got Carrie Shavat. Yay, Carrie. So I'm going to turn it over right now to Brendan Gill. Please give him a hearty welcome.
A hearty welcome.
A hearty welcome.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Yeah, let's go. This is a rally, right? This is a rally. So first of all,
Go blue.
Go blue. That's right. Go blue. Two other, if you wouldn't mind, just two others too that I know we have here locally from Montclair, two members of our Board of Education who are here.
And Board of
Catherine Weller-Damming and Eric Scherzer, also from the Montclair Board of Education. You heard through the grapevine you're running.
November 8th.
So I'll be very brief because I know we're here to hear from all the speakers behind us. I have the honor and privilege to serve as the leader of our local Democratic Party here in Montclair. For those of you who don't know, I'm a lifelong Montclair resident. We couldn't be more thrilled and excited to have even more of Montclair in the Congresswoman's district. We've been lucky enough, absolutely. We've been lucky enough to have two members of Congress represent Montclair for many, many years. Congressman Payne and now Congresswoman Sherrill. Yep, absolutely. Give it up for that. Congressman Payne's on the ballot tomorrow too, so if you're in his district, please, we're asking you to make sure we get out for Congressman Payne as well. But it's always tough, and Congressman Payne, as you know, Mr. Chairman, was very supportive of making sure that we do what we needed to do to make sure that we send Mikie Sherrill back to Congress. Because
And we also need to vote.
the stakes are just too high. The stakes are just too high. The Congresswoman and I participated in 2 to 3 events this weekend dealing just on the issue of gun violence and what we're trying to do to solve it. And we need action, there's no question. But I told a quick story at one of the rallies that the Congresswoman and I were at on Friday night. I have a 10-year-old daughter who's in the 4th grade. And for those of you who may know, there's a famous skill, and then another famous skill who teaches down at Glenfield School, who's on his 53rd year still teaching in the Montclair Public Schools. And the day after the Texas horrific massacre, I dropped my daughter off to school at Northeast. And there were two, Mr. Chief, there were two officers doing their job who were out there to make sure that people felt safe. But my 10-year-old was extremely nervous. She was upset because of what she saw. And I thought when I was dropping her off, she was upset about her own safety. And I said, Kristen, why are you so upset? Is everything okay? And she very emotionally said to me, Dad, is Grandpa gonna be okay? And with all my heart, I wanted to tell my 10-year-old that we could secure the safety of her grandfather because he's going to a place where he should be safe, where there should be no question that he's safe. They had to identify those little young folks in Texas with DNA. With DNA. So if you're not outraged, upset, and wanting to take action, I don't know what else you need. I don't know what else you need. Because yes, it's about sending the Congresswoman back to Washington, but it's also about protecting and changing the direction of this country. And we can't do that without Congresswoman Mikie Sherrill. So whether it's the environment, whether it's transportation, whether it's the Essex Hudson Greenway, which we're so excited about. That's right. We'll throw that in anytime we can. We gotta make sure that we send her back. So specific, Mr. Chairman. I know we have a big district, but I'm just going to speak specific to Montclair. We need Montclair to come out in a big way. It is not rhetoric to tell you that Montclair can make the difference of whether or not Congresswoman Mikie Sherrill goes back to Congress. We have the votes. We have, the good news is we don't normally have to do a lot of persuasion. We've got a few Republicans left. We're trying to, we'll talk to them later. But we have to just turn out the vote. We just have to turn out the vote here. But we can't allow apathy. We can't allow the idea that we can't win this race, because we're going to win this race. We're going to win these other races across the country. We got to stop saying we can't win, because we can win. We can win. We will win. We will win. So we got to do what we got to do here in Montclair to make sure that we get the vote out. I also see who just joined us, Assemblyman Benji Wimberly in the back from Patterson. Assemblyman, thank you for being here. We got to do what we got to do to make sure we get the vote out for Mikie. I definitely got to do what I got to do to get the vote out for Mikie, because we live very close to one another. So we see each other quite a bit. So I better get my job done here, Mr. Chairman, as our municipal chairman, because I'm not messing around, and we shouldn't mess around. So please, everyone, this is a great start, but you got to talk to your friends, you got to talk to your neighbors, you got to get involved with our local organization, our local party. We got to get involved with this campaign, and we got to make sure that Mikie Sherrill goes back to Congress. All the best.
Please join me in welcoming Assemblywoman Brittany Timberlake.
Hello, Montclair! I'm sorry, we here for Mikie. I said, hello, Montclair! We should be so fired up for Mikie Sherrill, because let me tell you something. She is such an inspiration in so many different ways. She's inspired me as a woman in office. As you can see, I'm trying to catch up to her. They didn't always have, ladies like us have the option to go down to Washington, to go down to Trenton, to serve in office. Thank you, my love. So that's one thing that I'm really inspired about her in. There's another thing. She works across the aisle. So when we're talking about gun safety, when we're talking about our environment, when we're talking about these things that are incredibly polarizing that really shouldn't be, you can count on sending someone, a representative down to Washington like Mikie Sherrill, to carry the message back for you and to also get the job done. The other person running will not do that. The third thing is, and I'm gonna close in about 30 seconds, I'm your girl, is my sister-in-law is Ukrainian, born and raised. My brother, who's a professional overseas basketball player, met and fell in love with Anna, who's from, like I said, Ukraine, and they now live in Switzerland with my nephew, Jackson. And as the invasion was becoming more and more inevitable, we would call my brother and say, hey, listen, this is happening. And they would no doubt say, some choice words about Putin and that, he's bluffing, he's been messing with us for years. They didn't say messing with, and we're not afraid of him. Her parents are still there. They have a restaurant. They have property. They have a farm. Her grandparents are still there. And I was incredibly concerned about them. I contacted Congressman Sherrill, who met with the president of Ukraine just a week or so before. And she says to me, where are they at? I told her Kiev, and she said, tell them it's time to get out. Her staff called me the next day to offer any assistance possible. Now, I knew that my nephew on our side of the family was a badass and had the badass blood running through his veins. I didn't realize it was also on her side of the family, because what they said back to me was that they would rather die than leave, that they were gonna stay in their country, that they were gonna fight for their democracy. And they thanked Congressman Sherrill for caring so much to help them, but they were not going anywhere. I wanted to share that because that is a testament to who she is as a human being, ready to act, ready to serve. She served our nation in the military. She's serving our nation now down in Washington. This is a sacrifice to be a public official, but we don't do it for accolades and for names and for waves. We do it to make our world better. And Mikie Sherrill is making our world better. Thank you.
Thank you, Assemblywoman. I'd like to call up now Senator Nia Gill.
Thank you. So I'm a Mountie, and my family has been in Montclair for 100 years. I'm not 100 years old, but they've been here. And look, we know what we have to do. We know who Mikie is and what she stands for. Now, this is what we have to do. Because when I run, I know where to get my votes. And that's what we have to do. And it may not be glamorous, and it certainly is not always public. But I will close with this. We can't pray her in. We can clap her in. We can't shout her in. We have to vote her in. And there is no election that is unimportant, because what we do in Montclair for both Mikie and Donald Payne, it sets a tone for the rest of the country. You know why? Because people are watching you. And they are watching what we do in a blue state, thinking that we have no pressing problems to turn our vote out. And we have to turn our vote out to let America know that in the People's Republic, right here in Montclair, we can kick, and take names.
Thank you, Senator Gill. Oops, as I fall. Please welcome Assemblywoman Mila Jacey.
Thank you. Unfortunately, I can't vote for Mikie, but my two children and their spouses who live here in Montclair, where my dad grew up, can. So that's 4 votes you've got right there. I guarantee it.
Take them.
What I'd like to say about Mikie is that I had the pleasure of meeting her before she decided to run. And that conversation has stayed with me forever. She is the most genuine, real person there is. She has not changed. Going to Washington has not changed her. She is still the person who is focused, who understands what needs to happen, and is willing to put in the work. And that in politics is a rarity. We need more people like Mikie in Congress and in all public office.
More
The
women
oth-
in politics.
Yes. The other thing I want to say is I was very proud, along with Governor Cody, to be, I think we were the first elected officials to endorse Mikie when she decided to run. And I have never, ever regretted that. She is the genuine article. The fact that her family is willing to share her is a big deal. I know, I spend a lot of time away from my family, but my kids are grown now. Her children are still growing and developing, and yet they are willing, along with their dad, to share her with the rest of us. So tonight, when you go home, make sure you pick up the phone and you call at least 5 people who may be thinking, oh, she's got it, it's in the bag. That's not the point. We want to see those numbers, because you know what? If you don't have a seat at the table, you're probably on the menu.
That's true.
Thank you, Myla. Okay, next up we have Governor Cody. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Glad to be in Montclair. When I was born, they took me to Montclair, Montague Place, where my mother was born and raised and married in a Conception church. So they're proud people. Now I want to talk a little bit about our election coming up. We all know and can remember the Murphy election, right? Brendan, you remember it, right? Where are you? Right behind me, as always. That's an insider. Don't laugh. So, last year, 10 points, 10 points, 10 points, 10 points. What happened at the end? 3 points. Don't let that happen again. Don't let that ever happen again.
Get out the vote.
Don't think this is sewed up. Look at some of the national polls. Listen, you gotta work this year. This woman's the best candidate I've seen forever and ever and ever. And I mean that from my heart. Don't let her down. Don't let her down. Make sure everybody comes out and votes. Listen, I talk to Republicans all the time up in Orange County. They say she's great, but they're probably not going to vote for her, okay? She's got to come out of here huge, big, and then let other things happen. God bless you, Mikie. God bless you. Let's get her in.
God bless America.
Okay, please welcome next our state party chairman and Essex County Chairman Leroy Jones.
Thank you, Jackie. I have the honor and the privilege to, introduce, our standard bearer, our Congresswoman. But before we do that, I just got to show, some Essex pride and respect, because there is a gentleman that is here that came all the way here from Passaic County, and he serves in the General Assembly, representing the 35th Legislative District. And that's my brother from another mother, the Honorable Benji Wimberly. Come on, Benji.
Mikie, I came all the way over here. One is, I like everybody else, when I first met you on Route 23, when the chairman introduced you, I was like, whatever you need to get done, Passaic County. Well, I heard about the beer here, so I'm from Patterson. I said I heard that spot is really hot, so I came over to get some good Montclair beer. I'm gonna have a cold one. But we wish you the best of luck. Whatever I can do in Passaic County or statewide, I'm here with you 100%. So let's run up the score.
That sounds great.
Thank you, Benji. So, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you all for coming out this evening. This is a wonderful night. And this is a night that we should all be proud of because we have a person that we can clearly be proud of. You know, you've heard the speakers before me talk about, you know, how consequential this election is. And this is a primary election. And Mikie doesn't have a primary challenge. John Payne Jr. does. And those that are in that portion of the Montclair district that, you know, that are represented by Don Payne Jr., make sure you come out. Make sure you come out and you vote for Don Payne Jr. because Don Payne and Mikie Sherrill have been a team in Congress, you know, that's been second to none. And we can ill afford to lose that team. So come tomorrow. If you already haven't voted by mail, if you already haven't within the last 3 days, you know, voted early, you got one more opportunity to vote for Don Payne Jr. as well as Mikie Sherrill. But ladies and gentlemen, let me just tell you a little bit about why Mikie Sherrill. Why? Because of gun control, the lack of. Brendan talked about the horrific events that occurred in Buffalo, in Texas, and a few other spots just recently again. What does it take? What does it take for Congress to understand, particularly those on the other side of the aisle, that babies are dying? Babies are dying. And we are standing by watching this day in and day out. We also are under siege, particularly women, who simply have that sacred right to choose how they're going to conduct health care for their bodies. Reproductive rights are at the forefront of this election. And rights in general, whether they be voting rights, civil rights, LGBTQ rights, our rights are under siege, ladies and gentlemen. There is one champion. There is one champion, you know, that has been at the forefront of all those issues. And we know who it is. She has never, ever wavered. She has been that person, you know, that has pledged, you know, service to this country by serving in the United States Navy. She's took that oath of office and she's come back to be on the front lines again. Not necessarily flying helicopters, but making sure, you know, that the bullets are not flying in the face of young children, that women are not under siege with their sacred right of choice to be taken from them. Voting rights are not under siege. Ladies and gentlemen, this is about our democracy. And this is about, you know, that person who is that superhero. And I don superheroes on my sneakers because I believe, you know, that Mikie is that person that regardless of whether she wears a cape or not, she is going to be that person that champions. She is going to be that person that stands in the fire, and her voice is going to ring loud and clear, not just in the 11th Congressional District, but through the hallowed halls of Congress and throughout this world, ladies and gentlemen. We have a gem, we have a superstar. So I am asking you that this is our moment. This is our moment in the primary. That moment will rise again in the general election. And that moment is going to say to the people of Montclair and the 11th Congressional District that Mikie Sherrill has to be reelected because Mikie Sherrill is our tomorrow. Mikie Sherrill is our tomorrow. Please understand the gravity of that, understand the consequences of that. And ladies and gentlemen, let you hear from the next or the person that will be reelected to the 11th Congressional District. I almost got ahead of myself. We're not quite there yet. Just joking for now. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honorable Congresswoman Mikie Sherrill.
Wow. I have nothing left. You guys heard it all. No, it is wonderful to be here. And I have to tell you, it's been tough talking to people across the state, across Montclair. It's been tough talking to kids about what's going on in our country right now. because I hear people who come up to me and say, oh my gosh, never in my life have I felt this threatened when it comes to choice or reproductive rights. Never in my life have I felt like our country was actually working to disenfranchise people in this country and roll back protections that we fought years to get. Never in my life have I seen people being slaughtered in the streets at this rate and a failure to act. And I tell them, that's why we've got to fight. And they say, well, this isn't the country that represents my values. And that's when I stop them, because I say that's just not right. This country represents all of our values. This country is right now being dictated to by a very small extremist majority that does not represent this country. So when you have that moment and you think, what do we stand for? You know what we stand for. You here know exactly what we stand for. And the only way we lose these battles, the only way we lose these fights, is if we just give up trying. Because I'll tell you, 88% of the people in this country think we need universal background checks. I could go down the list, and then I'll get to the bottom of the list, and I'm at assault weapons bans, and you might say, well, that's going to be harder. 67% of the people in this country think we need to ban assault weapons. So when you wonder what this country stands for, believe me when I tell you, because I've been fighting for this country my entire life, believe me when I tell you, you know what this country stands for. It's what you stand for. It's what you believe in. It's what this state believes in. And the people behind me represent the people that were the very first in the nation to codify Roe in the New Jersey legislature. The people standing behind me represent the people that gave us some of the strongest gun safety legislation in the nation, which is why we have some of the lowest rates per capita of gun deaths in the nation. The people behind me represent our values. You represent our values. So don't let anybody ever tell you that this country does not stand for the things you know it does. And let me just remind you, the only way we lose is if we give up. The only way we lose is if we don't get out and vote. So that's what we have to do. We have to get out and vote. We have to get our friends out, and they gotta vote. And we gotta get their neighbors out, and they gotta vote. And so if you haven't voted yet, don't raise your hand, because you had a lot of opportunities, guys. I mean, now we got early voting. You could have done it all weekend, but that's okay. If you haven't voted yet, if you're a purist, you like to do it on Tuesday, that's fine. Make sure you have your plan. Make sure you're not going to get stuck at work at night before the polls close, right? And then you call your parents and you say, what's your plan to vote? And then you call your friends, and then you call your kids and you say, what's your plan to vote? And if any of you talk to people and they're like, I'm going to be out of town, then you say, well, what we would say in my family is, oh, Mary, Mother of God. Then you get them a mail-in voting ballot, so by the general election, they're ready to vote. Yes. That's what you gotta do. Yes. All right, so thank you all for coming out. Thank you all for preaching the good word to your friends, your neighbors, and especially to your children, because they need to hear it. This is what America stands for. Thank you once again, and without further ado, I'm gonna turn it back over to Jay.
Thank you. Let's hear it for Mikie Sherrill. Thank you all so much for being here. We've got a really tough race ahead of us. We are going to run through the tape obviously tomorrow, but we have full eyes set on the general election in November. We're going to need you there with us. We're so grateful you're here tonight. Thank you for coming out. Have a good rest of the time.